Senate will come back to order. Senate will come back to order. Just want to make the chamber aware that you've got a supplemental Senate local consent calendar that's on your desk. It's on your desk for you to review, and we'll take it up here shortly. You have a supplemental Senate local calendar on your desk. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move the Senate adopt the Conference Committee report for Senate Bill 6.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Committees of Conference report on Senate Bill 6. The Committees of Conference on Senate Bill 6 recommended that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions and that the attached Committees of Conference substitute to Senate Bill 6 be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd, and Senator Watson of the 1st. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to begin by thanking you, our Lieutenant Governor, our Governor, Senator from the 52nd, distinguished Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, and the Senator from the 1st, distinguished Chairman of the Health and Human Service Committee, and the great work from our friends in the House. Senate Bill 6 originally was the Tax Credit Investment Act and ROI Act of 2021. Our little bill has gotten a bit bigger, and let me take you through each section briefly. The original language for the Tax Credit Return on Investment Act for 2021 is passed by this Senate on numerous occasions, is intact in this bill. So each year, the Chair of Finance and the Chair of Ways and Means can measure 5 credits each. Section 2 is for medical equipment, medical supplies, and pharmaceutical equipment to make sure that it is not being taxed. It has an exemption. And in 2.2, if those same supplies applied to the PPE credit passed in 2020, that they could not double dip and get both of those. Section 2.3 relates to aerospace. Most of us are aware that Lockheed Martin is on track to hopefully get the next generation of fighter jets. The incredible work done by the senator from the 32nd, the distinguished chairlady of Veterans and Homeland Security, has worked diligently with all of our major leaders here in the state. Lockheed Martin looks to potentially invest up to $800 million, 1,800 plus jobs, not counting the future job growth and all the add-on jobs, major initiatives, high-paying jobs for Cobb County and the entire surrounding area. I want to add this is the ideal format and template we should use for future tax credit expenditures for the setup and return to the state. Section 4.1 is for our short line Class 3 railroads. This is excellent investment for rural Georgia. It also helps take things off of tractor trailers, move them onto rail, helps with traffic, helps with the environment, and things that we're all very concerned with. This is also a major initiative to get goods through the port. Section 5.1 are projects of regional significance. Georgia's the #1 place to do business for 8 years, a record. We all know that, and that happened because of the major projects that have been brought here and all the add-on jobs. And I want to thank the great work from Governor Kemp and his administration, as well as Governor Deal before him. And this simply extends that out for 2 more years to 2023. Section 5.2, you'll know that year after year we have passed the sales tax exemption on tickets and fees for the fine art, music, dance, and other large events we want coming to our state. This extends that out for another year to 2022. 5-3 is an existing exemption for concrete equipment and supplies. As we typically do, we want to tax outputs and not inputs. This continues that current exemption, which has proven to be a very good return on investment, another 5 years to 2026, following our typical theme here in the Senate. Section 5.4 is for major ship repair. There's been a huge investment down in our Savannah area. I want to thank the senator from the 1st again, the chair of Health and Human Services. They've done significant investments down there, created a lot of high-paying jobs, and this, because of the long-term investment, will extend that out to 2031. 6.1 is the historic tax credit. Some of you remember we measured that back in 2017, got a very favorable return on investment for the state. This will continue that for 1 more year. In addition to the $25 million that utilizes it, we've also earmarked an additional $5 million for smaller projects to make sure that all different levels of contractors and owners could participate. Section 7.1 is the retail business headquarters that would not necessarily be called just a retail store. The example for that would be Home Depot, one of our largest and best employers here in the state. Because their headquarters is here, where they do a lot of development innovation, they have not been able to get the research and development tax credits. If you've not been to their innovation center in Cobb County, I would recommend that you do that in the off session, and you'll see some of the exciting work they're doing there. I do want to point out that the Home Depot was one of the first people to be on site and done great work in the center of the 28th district in Coweta County after the major storms and damage just a few days ago. And then in 7.2, this is the high-tech company tax exemptions for sales and leasing on computer equipment. We added 2 things. One is to have annual reporting to the Department of Revenue, which will then come to us to review. And then, like all other tax credits, we put a sunset on that as well in 2023. This is a large bill. It brings checks and balances. It has us measure the return on investment, and it keeps Georgia the #1 place to do business. Mr. President, there are no questions. I will yield the well.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I'll yield.
Thank you, Senator. I'm so glad to see that your legislation is still in here. I missed the beginning of your presentation, so forgive me. Is Senate Bill 148 still in here, the tax council?
Senator, unfortunately, in our negotiations in the conference committee, 2 items that were fairly large were taken out. One was Senate Bill 148, the great work done by the chairman of finance, as well as what's called GARJA, which was another program that we wanted to do more measurement and have appropriate controls over.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Isn't it true that Senate Bill 148 is something that's supported by both parties in our chamber, and I hope that we'll look to move it forward next year?
Senator, I could not agree more with you. Senate Bill 148 worked so well years ago before many of us got here, and we were in that first class of people that passed a lot of those reforms that put Georgia on the rails to become the #1 place to do business.
Well, isn't it true that I'm grateful to you and to our chairman of finance, my seatmate here, for the good work on aspects of this bill? One final quick question. Are you or others at all concerned that some of these tax credits could jeopardize any of our American Rescue Plan funds, or do we feel that that's sort of adequately taken care of?
Yeah, we don't believe this would interrupt those at all, and I appreciate the questions, and I believe the great teamwork demonstrated on this bipartisan legislation will be great for all of us in our districts.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I urge for your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 6.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 56th has moved that the Senate adopt the conference committee report on Senate Bill 6. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0, and the Senate has adopted the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 6. Now we're going to take up a supplemental local consent calendar. You've got a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any bills on the local consent calendar that have been asked to, that objections have been filed?
Mr. President, no objections have been filed.
Is there objection agreeing the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. The question is on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? One more. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask permission to swiftly move House Bill 579 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 579 by Representatives Oliver of the 82nd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 75 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to War on Terrorism local assistance so as to change the short title to the Public Safety and Judicial Facilities Act and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th. Chairman, this completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 10th has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 579 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's taken off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 10th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of this great body. House Bill 579 is a general bill, but it only has local implication. This bill only applies to DeKalb County. Back in 2003, the Public Safety and Judicial Facility Act was created. About a few years thereafter, I think around 2007, former State Representative Mike Jacobs put a poison pill in this legislation because DeKalb County was the only county that had enacted this authority, and that poison pill had the effect of not allowing DeKalb County to issue bonds for their judicial and public safety improvement projects. Now, Judge, may I add, Mike Jacobs, is strongly in favor of this so that DeKalb County can build him now a new judicial facility. And I ask your favorable consideration for House Bill 579. Thank you. I yield the well unless there's some questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 579? The chair sees none. Is there objection agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we take HB 470 off the table.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
House Bill 470 by Representatives Washburn of the 141st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 44 of the OCJ relating to regulation of specialized land transactions so as to provide that no plans are required when units are not designated by physical structures and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 28th has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 470 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the bill is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. HB 470 simply says that floor plans are not required at closing for non-residential condominiums. That I'll yield for questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration.
That was a veteran introduction of a measure. Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 470? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Senator from the 14th, the minority leader. Senator from the 52nd. You got to vote. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. For what purpose does the senator from the 13th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just kind of wanted to, before we all sit here enjoying ourselves, I wanted to parliamentary inquire, please.
State your inquiry.
I wanted to thank the senator from the 8th for that wonderful cobbler from a great American cobbler company in a great America. That was delicious. Thank you.
We had no idea you were in the blueberry business. Blackberry. For what purpose does the senator from the 19th rise?
Mr. President, I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 334.
That motion's not recognized at this moment. Thank you. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent and respectfully request that House Bill 236 be removed from the table.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
House Bill 236 by Representatives Neal of the 74th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 13 of Title 19 of the OCGA relating to granting of relief by superior courts, so as to provide for additional monitoring of the victim after the granting of a temporary protective order and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Alberts of the 56th, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 29th has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 236 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's taken off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to speak to the measure.
Colleagues, I stand before you today with House Bill 236. House Bill 236 is not only a compassionate part of public safety, but a necessary part of public safety. As we've seen during the pandemic and other times, domestic violence continues to rise within our communities. Freshman representative from the 74th has brought forth this piece of legislation that gives victims the opportunity that once they get a protective order, they can take that protective order to a local law enforcement agency and establish an opportunity for the law enforcement agencies to come by and do security checks periodically throughout the day to ensure the safety of the petitioner. This is an excellent piece of legislation, and it will save lives in Georgia, and I respectfully request your support. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 236? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
Mr. President, I move we agree to the House substitute for House Bill 334.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 334 by Representatives Gullett of the 19th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 and Article 1 of Chapter 17 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to clerks of superior courts and general provisions regarding notaries public and for other purposes.
read a little bit. Jack needs to build it in.
The House offers the following amendment to amend House Bill 334 by striking the language beginning with line 1 on page 1 through line 447 on page 19 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 and Article 1 of Chapter 17 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to clerks of superior courts and general provisions regarding notaries public, respectively, so as to provide for remote online notaries public and remote online notarizations, to provide for and revise definitions, to revise the powers of the Georgia Support Court Clerks Cooperative Authority, to provide for requirements for remote online notaries public and remote online notarization, to provide that the Georgia Superior Court Clerks Cooperative Authority may adopt certain standards for remote online notarization, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. The night is getting late, so I will be brief. This bill was discussed a little bit earlier. I know the great work that so many people had. The one thing that was added back into the online notary was for real estate transactions. We want to encourage more home ownership in the state of Georgia. We want people to be able to go and get their work done during the day and not need to find time to take off from their job, not find time to get a babysitter, to do everything else in order to get their home closed. COVID has showed us in the last year that we need to propel ourselves more into the digital world. This is secure. It works. We're doing it for so many other areas. There's no reason why we would not want to do it for houses. Because the night is young, I would ask for your favorable consideration to help out our current and future homeowners in the state of Georgia by passing this bill, and I'll yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 19th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, members of the Senate. This is the bill I told you about this morning. If you remember this morning, I was the sponsor of this bill. But I do understand our Senate rules allow for anyone to move for a motion to agree at any moment, at any time. What this bill does is it goes back to the House's position on that notary bill I told y'all about this morning. The one that I told you we should have killed right then. But I said, no, let's operate in good faith. Let's send a bill back across the hall and see if they're going to keep their end of the deal. They did not. While I love the senator from the 56, he is a useful puppet in this endeavor. And I ask you, senators, please, do not.
The senator will not impede the character of another senator in this chamber.
That's fair, Mr. President. I apologize.
I would ask that this chamber come back to order and debate this matter seriously.
This bill takes and moves real estate into an online notary process. You may have had text that told you that 30 states have already done that. That is absolutely true, and 0 of them are attorney closing states. They are title closing states. If people want to send you text, get them to send you the whole truth. I ask that you disagree on this motion to agree to that the good senator from the 56 has brought up, that we can disagree, send this thing back across the House, and even give these guys one more chance to do what they said they were going to do. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield for questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
I yield.
Senator, what's your profession?
I'm an attorney.
Senator, will you yield for another question?
I sure will.
Do you ever close loans?
I've closed plenty of them.
Okay.
That's why I understand what this bill does.
Senator, do you believe that could be a conflict?
No, sir, it's not a conflict, because you know what this bill does? I was offered, would you put into this bill a guarantee fee for attorneys? And I said no, because it doesn't hurt attorneys nearly as bad as it hurts community banks. So what I ask you to do is help community banks, help small business. We have a governor who said that we're the #1 state for business, but he wants to be the #1 state for small business. So what I ask you to do is to defeat this motion to agree so that we can continue this process and give the House one more time to keep their deal. I apologize to this body for losing my cool on this one, but when you make a deal with someone, I think you should keep it. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will. The
chairman of the Trial Lawyer Caucus has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate my friend, the senator from the 19th.
This chamber will come back to order.
And while I did ask him a final question, I know it went on to be a longer speech. We can all have different perspectives. And having a different perspective doesn't mean that we're carrying water or puppeting for anyone. And the senator from the 19th should know that better than anybody. So, without making it personal, I talked to many of the community bankers who said, I'm perfectly fine with this bill. In the last 12 months, every one of us has learned to do things differently. Who would have thought just a year ago we would be in a society where folks couldn't leave their houses? They couldn't get to the bank. The bank wasn't even opened. But life had to go on, and we had to figure out new and innovative ways to do things, didn't we? So in this case, the very simple way of doing things online, notarizing, is very simple, it's straightforward, and it's common sense, and I'd ask for your favorable consideration. The House passed this, I believe, almost unanimously, and I think we can do the same. Thank you. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. For what purpose does the senator from the 17th rise?
Mr. President, I move that we put House Bill 334 on the table.
That motion is not debatable. All those in favor of placing House Bill 334 on the table vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, will you please close the machine? On the motion to place House Bill 334 on the table, the yeas are 46, the nays are 6, and House Bill 334 has been placed on the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th.
Um,
241, House
Yes,
Bill
sir.
241. Does that ring a bell?
There's no list. Senator, Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to bring House Bill 241 off the table.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 241 by Representatives Gamble of the 15th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-7-6 of the OCGA relating to property insurance, contract requirements, rules and regulations, and exemptions so as to revise the meaning of property insurance, to change the parameters under which certain contracts, agreements, or instruments may be canceled, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 29th has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 241 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's taken off the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to present the measure.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 241 is a piece of legislation that passed out of this chamber last year, and it became a victim of COVID. Basically, what this does is it expands what constitutes property insurance relating to motor vehicles by including wheels, keys, key fobs, and things of those nature so that consumers can enter into service contracts with them. And there's certain limitations in there to reduce current fraud that exists in the system, where individuals may purchase a vehicle, they'll find damage to the vehicle, maybe to the wheels or to some other part of it, and when they realize it's not covered by the insurance, they'll go out and buy a service contract fraudulently and attempt to use it from that. This closes a lot of those gaps, and this will make us, I believe, the 48th state to offer this type of insurance and cut down on fraud and hopefully lower our insurance premiums. And I would respectfully ask for your consideration and support this legislation. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 241? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? I encourage the senator from the 29th to vote for his own measure. Oh, now it is. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 25th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to pull House Bill 574 off the table.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 574 by Representatives Camp of the 131st. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4-11-3 of the OCGA relating to licenses for pet dealers and kennel, stable, or animal shelter operators and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd, Chairman.
Animal shelter operators.
Senate Finance offers the following substitute to House Bill 574, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4-11-3 of the OCGA relating to licenses for pet dealers and kennel, stable, or animal shelter operators and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 25th has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 574 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's taken off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 25th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a Department of Ag bill that is requesting that it be allowed to take fees that they already collect, not new fees. These are fees they already collect, about $200,000 a year, and give them the ability to redirect these fees to local animal shelters to help with particularly smaller communities that struggle with trying to, from their tax base, trying to keep up with the demands that they have through their local animal shelters. So all this is doing is allowing them to redirect some of these fees to the local animal shelters and aid with the measures that they have to deal with. I respectfully ask for your consideration, your support of the measure. I yield.
You had no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 574? Chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 164.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 164 by Senators Huffstetler of the 52nd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-11-471, Title 16, and Code Section 31-22-9.1 of the OCGA, relating to definitions relative to juvenile delinquency, crimes and offenses, and who may perform HIV tests, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 164, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-11-471 of the OCGA relating to definitions relative to juvenile delinquency, crimes and offenses, and who may perform HIV tests, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 52nd has moved that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 164. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and this body has disagreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 164. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th. For motion.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that the Senate agree with the House substitute on Senate Bill 115.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 115 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding driver's licenses, so as to provide for an instructional course or presentation educating drivers and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 115, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 40 of the OCGA relating to motor vehicles and traffic, so as to provide for a curriculum or presentation curriculum educating drivers and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to speak to his motion.
Friends and colleagues, I know each of you are familiar with SB 115. We passed it out of this chamber. Gives GIPSTIC and Georgia Department of Public Safety an opportunity to develop a safety program for Georgia drivers. The amendment that has been offered is related to the ability of municipalities and law enforcement agencies to sign contracts for cameras, stationary cameras, to be used in school districts only during school district hours. We heard testimony in committee that these types of cameras have greatly reduced speeds and violations in school zones and has saved lives in school zones, including one school zone here in Atlanta that has continued to try to put these cameras together, where two pedestrians, one being a child, were struck and killed in a crosswalk. This is by far the most dangerous part of any community for vehicles to speed through, and I would greatly appreciate your support on agreeing with the House substitute on Senate Bill 115. Mr. President, I'll answer any questions. If not, I'll yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th with a question.
Does Senator yield?
I do, sir.
Is it true that a third of the revenues from these cameras go to out-of-state vendors?
It is true that the information I have, Senator, is that a third of the revenue does go to the vendor that provides the equipment, and 2/3 stays in the community to continue to enhance safety programs.
Is it not true that the local governments could also place these mechanisms in these school zones and not pay it to out-of-state vendors?
If the school districts wanted to fund these types of cameras, and if they could find a vendor, I have yet to find any school district that has went out and purchased these cameras on their own because they're extremely expensive, and established and put these in their school zone. And then with the infrastructure, technology that's required to maintain this equipment, I think what you would find, my colleague, is that this is very cost prohibitive for most school districts. And I say most school districts. I'm not talking about some of those here and around Metro Atlanta.
Does the Senator further yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are school districts prohibited from operating these cameras?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
It's my understanding that they are, and it's not authorized by state law.
The school district in Harris County, where I'm at, it's operated by the school district and the city of Hamilton.
Senator, further yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Is it true that under this legislation, the school districts do not get any revenue off of these cameras?
No, sir. What is under here is that it does not require the signing off by the school district. That does not prohibit the municipality or the municipality from sharing the revenues with the law enforcement agencies, which they currently do, and the school district. But those would all be agreements made within the local school district by the individuals and the groups involved.
Senator Further Yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Is it true that the legislature last year denied school districts the ability to run their own radar in school districts by school district
Yes, sir.
safety officers?
Yes, sir. What is true is last year during the Public Safety Hearing Committee, myself and others voted against giving school law enforcement officers the ability to run radar in their vehicles because traffic stops normally, when the traffic stop starts, where it stops, 99% of the time is outside of the school district, therefore robbing the school district of the resource of that law enforcement officer within the school district to fulfill his or her responsibility of protecting the children and educators within the school district. That is correct.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I would greatly appreciate everyone's support on 115. Thank you. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 29th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 115. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Hallways clear. Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 23, the nays are 26, and the motion has failed. What purpose does the senator from the 29th rise?
I call for reconsideration, Mr. President.
Senator has that right to file for immediate reconsideration. Would you like to speak to your motion to reconsider?
Yes, sir.
Gentleman is recognized to speak to his motion to reconsider.
Colleagues, I want to be very clear. If your concern is about these cameras, they're only used during school hours. They're not ran on Saturday and Sunday. They're not run in the evening when school is out or in the morning before school is there. These cameras have one purpose, and that's to protect children. And if that's your problem, then there's nothing I can do about that. I'm a public safety officer and I'm a law enforcement officer. You don't have to necessarily like me, but the important thing is my intent is always to protect people and save lives. If you don't like 115 that went out of here, I had the same intent there too. The intent to save lives, the lives of individuals who get nervous and get scared when they're being stopped by law enforcement officers, and to give them an opportunity to understand if an officer mistreats them, doesn't observe their First, their Fourth, their Fifth Amendment rights, that they understand how they can file complaints against that officer with post counsel, with the agency that officer works for, or any other agency. This is about saving lives. This is not one of those pieces of legislation where somebody comes up and says it's for the children or adds any of these other taglines to in hopes of making themselves feel better or to coddle and get votes. This is the reality. I do not live in a world of cotton candy and butterflies. I live in a world where people are in danger and we need to protect them. So please, please, we need your vote. This is important. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
Your time has expired. Does any other senator wish to speak against the motion? For what purpose does the majority leader rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is this the real intent of this bill, to save lives of people during traffic stops, because at no point during their training do they have any indication or any education on what to do if they are pulled over by police? And is the intent, so the whole intent of the bill, regardless of these cameras, I could care less about the cameras, but regardless of these cameras, is the whole intent not to save lives of people during traffic stops?
I'm sure the gentleman knows of what he speaks. For what purpose does the pro tem rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it also true that school boards sign off on these cameras? And isn't it also true that the gentleman from the 37th points out that the vendor takes 1/3 and the school board gets 2/3? But isn't it better to have 2/3 of something than all of nothing? And isn't it better that we have children protected in school zones? And isn't it also better that 115 is a bill that helps instruct young people particularly about how to conduct themselves in a traffic stop and helps them?
The gentleman speaks with great passion. All right, the time has expired on the measure. The gentleman has moved that this body reconsider. Senator from the 29th has moved that this body reconsider its vote on Senate Bill 115. All those in favor of the motion to reconsider, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 41st rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that this bill actually makes it so that school boards no longer have to sign off on those cameras?
That's for each and every member to make that decision on their own.
Thank you.
Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion to reconsider, the yeas are 22, the nays are 29, and this body has failed to reconsider. Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adhere to its disagreement to the House amendment to Senate substitute to House Bill 409 and that a conference committee be appointed.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 409 by Representatives Gunter of the 8th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 15 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to counsel for public officials and agencies so as to provide for a process for state-funded representation of certain judges in legal action resulting from performance or non-performance of their official duties, to provide for a definition, to establish the Judicial Legal Defense Fund, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass by substitute.
That completes the order.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 50th has moved that the Senate adhere to its disagreement to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to House Bill 409 and that a conference committee be appointed. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the chair appoints the senators from the 50th, the 17th, and the 18th as our conferees. Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 156.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 156 by Senators Harbin of the 16th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 34 of the OCGA relating to labor and industrial relations so as to provide for the appointment, oath, bond, power, duties, and authority of a chief labor officer and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 156. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 34 of the OCGA relating to labor and industrial relations so as to provide for the appointment, oath, bond, power, duties, authority, and removal of chief labor officer, to require the chief labor officer to promptly respond to financial audits and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 42nd rise?
Mr. President, at the appropriate time, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 39th.
This is the appropriate time, and without objection, the senator from the 39th is excused. The button must have come off. Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill left this chamber with 35 signatures on it going to the House, dealing with the issue of our Department of Labor and helping them get the money for our people who are calling our phones who need help. What this bill has done, it has created the office of Chief Labor Officer. It gives him the power and authority and the duty to provide timely reports and respond to any financial audits from the Department of Labor and any inquiries from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Lieutenant Governor, the President Pro Tem, and the Chair of the House and the Senate Committee on Appropriations. It not only does that, but here's what else it will do. Listen to this. Every Monday morning, the commissioners shall submit to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the minority leader of the House of Representatives, the minority leader of the House of Representatives, the President of the Senate, the minority leader of the Senate, the majority leader of the Senate, a report for a week prior and for a scheduled calendar year to date of claims filed with the department, unpaid claims, claims for each stage of process of where they are, inquiries that are submitted by members of the General Assembly on behalf of the constituents who are experiencing issues with claims of unemployment compensation, and number 5, inquiries submitted by members of the General Assembly on behalf of their constituents whose issues have not been resolved. This will help our people get the money that they need, I believe. And we agree, and I agree with the House response to this, and I believe it's a good bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st for a question.
Does the senator yield?
I yield.
Isn't it not true on line 48 and 49? It says this section shall stand repealed on December 31, 2022. So it does sunset, and certainly we should be over by the pandemic by then and get the Department of Labor some assistance.
Yes, sir. By that time, we should have the problem solved, and I believe the addition of this helps solve that issue.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yield.
Who will appoint, under the House version that they sent over to us, who will appoint the Chief Labor Officer?
Chief Labor Officer is appointed by the Speaker of the House and confirmed by the Government Oversight Committee.
I just want to make sure. You said the Chief Labor Officer now is appointed by the Speaker of the House.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with any other position in government that would have this type of authority that's appointed by the Speaker of the House?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
And just further yield?
Further yield.
Am I correct in reading on lines 30 of this bill that he or she, being the Chief Labor Officer, shall serve at the pleasure of the Speaker and may be removed by the Speaker?
That is how it comes. Yes, sir.
And do you further yield?
Yield.
Mr. Senator, do you agree with this?
I agree with it only from the standpoint that it has a sunset provision on it, and I believe it is an action that we can agree to solve a short-term issue.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator, is it not true that the reason that the Speaker appoints this position is because we believe that the oversight of this executive office should rest with the legislature?
That is the senator knows from which he speaks, sir.
Does the senator further yield?
I yield.
Senator, is it not true that we also have a provision in this bill that requires your committee, the Government Oversight Committee, to confirm any appointment that's made by the Speaker?
That is correct.
Thank you, Thank you, Senator.
Okay, thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? For what purpose does the senator from the 14th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to be excused from voting on Senate Bill 156 pursuant to Senate Rule 5-1-8.
Without objection, the senator from the 14th is excused from voting on SB 156 per the regulations cited. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 16th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 156. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? A couple more out in the hallway. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 29, the nays are 20, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 156. Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th for a motion. To agree. Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate agree to the House amendment to Senate substitute to House Bill 617.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 617 by Representatives Martin of the 49th and others. A bill to be inside an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to post-secondary education so as to revise that student athletes participating in intercollegiate athletic programs at post-secondary educational institutions may receive compensation and for other purposes. The House offers the following amendment to amend the Senate amendment to House Bill 617 by striking lines 34 through 39 and inserting in lieu thereof the following. 20-3-683, the provisions of this article shall become effective on July 1st, 2021, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. For once, the House just made one small change to one of our bills instead of totally gutting it. You'll remember I had put the effective date of this bill would not be until the NCAA changed its rules to allow this, or else Congress passed a bill to allow it. There apparently is a bill in Congress effective, I mean, it's underway now, it's being negotiated, that might resolve this, and the NCAA is also looking into rules and regulations. So the House just kind of flipped it and went ahead and made the bill effective this July, but it will be essentially terminated once the Congress passes a bill or the NCAA takes care of this. Then we'll have nationwide standards we'll all follow. I'm fine with this change and would ask you to agree. Willing to take any questions if anybody has them.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 46th has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment to Senate substitute to House Bill 617. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 43, the nays are 8, and the Senate has agreed to the House amendment to Senate substitute to House Bill 617. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that Senate Rule 2-8.3 be suspended for consideration of a conference committee report.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Committees of Conference substitute to Senate Bill 195, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 16 of the OCGA relating to crimes and offenses so as to provide that low THC oil, marijuana, and tetrahydrocannabinoids do not include certain federally approved products and for other purposes. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brass of the 28th, Senator Jackson of the 2nd, and Senator Watson of the 1st. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The Majority Leader has asked for unanimous consent that the rules be suspended to allow for the consideration of a conference committee report. All those in favor of the motion, is there objection? The chair hears none, and we can consider the conference committee report. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the conference committee report on SB 195.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right, SB 195, when it left here, we had unlimited dispensaries. The commission could issue as many dispensaries in this state as possible. Many of y'all got emails and texts and calls from your sheriffs saying that with 19,000 patients on the registry that you could end up with 1,000 dispensaries in this state. I didn't feel comfortable leaving here with that language. I didn't feel comfortable voting on it with that language. So when we went into conference, I fought to make sure that we put a limit on the number of dispensaries. So what we ended up with was we are giving the 6 licensees that will be awarded will each get 5 dispensaries. That's a total of 30. Again, when it left here, the House was insisting on unlimited amount of dispensaries. They had a bill earlier in the year that had 60. We got them down to 30. The way I got them down to 30 was that we allowed the amount of dispensaries can grow with the number of patients on the registry. So for every 10,000 patients that we add to the registry, that each licensee holder will then gain one more dispensary. So basically right now we have 15,000 patients on the registry. At 25,000, we will go from 30 to 36 dispensaries. 36 is not a whole lot when you look into the grand scheme of things. So that is the main, the most debatable part of this bill. So I want to be very clear on that. We're 30 dispensaries out of the gate, each licensee holder getting 5, and then they will each gain 1. And the reason we wanted to each one of them gain 1 was to keep us out of court, so that we're not issuing out to 1 or 2 or 3 of them. We're just going to give all 6 of them 1. Now, I want to be very clear on this. The market will drive this, and we control the market. We control the market because we control the illnesses and the diagnoses. The Composite Medical Board has to make recommendations to us to add an illness. All this fear of going down the path of recreational, if you look in states that went recreational, number one, the list got way out of control. The list of diagnoses got way out of control. We have a tight grip on that. That's number one. Number two, these other states went from vertical integration to what's known as horizontal. So you had a licensee holder that was producing and manufacturing, but then you had dispensaries that were owned by separate companies. And those states that had that horizontal integration quickly moved to recreational. We, in this bill, and again, this was a change from the House. We got them to move off their position. We are strictly vertically integrated. So the license holder is going to produce it. They're going to grow it. They're going to manufacture it, and then they are going to sell it. This keeps it secure. That is, again, that's the dispensaries. Another thing I want to be very clear on is one of the main reasons in this state in the bill from what you saw earlier was the State Board of Pharmacy is going to write the rules, and we separated that from the commission because in 324 from 2 years ago we said they will write it jointly. What we don't want is we don't want the commission writing rules and regs for pharmacies. Pharmacies didn't want that. The commission didn't want that. So again, I want to be very clear. The commission will now write the rules and regs on dispensaries, and the State Board of Pharmacy will write rules and regs for our pharmacists. That's the bulk of, that's the most disputed part of the bill. Everything else pretty much stayed intact. There was some of the bonding piece that came out, and since we're short on time, I'm gonna yield for questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd for a question.
Thank you, Senator. Will you yield?
Of course.
I'm looking at line 365. It looks like competitive bidding 367 in there is not there anymore. I was trying to understand what was going on. I didn't see the minority participation.
We're not touching minority participation in this.
I just don't see it in there. Maybe you're not.
You don't see minority participation in there? It was in HB 324. We don't have the entire code section in this bill.
Okay.
We didn't strike through it. Minority participation was not touched. 2 years ago, I fought very hard to get minority participation, women-owned business participation, and veteran-owned business participation to get in there. And several of y'all fought very hard to try to get it out. But y'all are trying to kill the entire bill. Not you specifically, but people in this chamber were fighting to kill the whole bill. And that was a big part of why. I fought hard to keep that in there, and I'm going to fight hard today to keep it in there. So I'm not going to take it out.
Will the senator yield and
will.
get back to the original question about the competitive being struck out?
Restate your question, please.
367, there's a strike through for a competitive application.
License issue percent, okay. So that's dealing with if a license is revoked. If you'll look,
I know it's dealing with a license revoked. I was asking why it's not competitive anymore.
what we saw with when you do that, you force it through DOAS, which is a competitive bid process. We're not bidding anything. The state's not purchasing anything. We're issuing a license. And in 324, we stated very clearly what the criteria is and how they're going to select it, how they're going to score it. And so this is a license process. It's not a bid process. And what we saw during one of the reasons we don't have licenses issued right now is because the bid process was so messed up because it went through DOAS, and they, quite frankly, don't even want it.
Do you continue to yield for questions?
I'll yield for one more.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I yield.
Thank you for your work on this. You've tightened it up. You've made it a lot safer for our communities, but yet you're allowing the Cannabis Commission to do more in their effort for research and other things. So thank you for your work. I'm for this bill, and I appreciate your effort.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Love your support.
Senator has yielded the well. Chair recognizes the pro tem to speak to the bill. The motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've spent a lot of time on this bill. The senator from the 28th has spent a lot of time on this bill. Others have dedicated time and energy to this bill. This is a need that we are seeing across the state. We've changed this bill time and again to try to address it. We need to quit kicking this can down the road and go ahead and make a motion on this bill and take action. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, you've deliberated on this. It is time to take action on it. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the pro tem for a motion.
Mr. President, I'd like to call a question.
Pro tem has moved that we order the previous question. All those in favor of that motion signify by voting yes. Opposed, no. The secretary will unlock the machine. This is a vote on calling the previous question. Those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 43, the nays are 9, and the motion has prevailed, and the previous question is now ordered. The question now is the motion by the senator from the 28th for the Senate to adopt the conference committee report on Senate Bill 195. All those in favor signify by voting yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 43, the nays are 9, and the Senate has adopted the conference committee report on Senate Bill 195. Chair recognizes the senator from the 11th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute Senate Bill 46.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 46 by Senators Burke of the 11th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 31 of the OCGA relating to health so as to authorize certain medical personnel to administer vaccines during public health emergencies and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 46. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 25 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the general provisions relative to firefighters' standards in training and health, respectively, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 11th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 46 is the vaccine bill that we all voted on here. The House added a little bit of language on the privacy issue because of the concerns about information going to the federal government, and I think they've tightened that issue up. They've also added language regarding firefighter drug testing, as well as de-identified data on those who prescribe THC oil. That's a research area that Dr. Newton over in the House wanted. So those are the changes to Senate Bill 46. This is an agency bill, and the agency is in support. Thank you. I'll yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to first off thank the senator from the 11th. He worked really hard on this very important bill. However, freshman representative over across the hall brought a bill to me in public safety, and I required that he go meet with the firefighter associations, with the firefighters and the fire chiefs. He didn't do that. I asked him several times, and he kept back asking to meet me to get a hearing for his bill, and I asked him to follow the process. He did not follow the process, and he missed crossover day. Told him I would help him with the bill in the off session, and yet here we are in the last hour for him adding it to a bill that does not have the agreement from the very folks that he is trying to quote-unquote help. So your firefighters association, your fire chiefs do not agree with what he put into the bill. He skirted the process, and it's just wrong. And I appreciate the senator from the 11th. He's a good man, but I cannot in good conscience vote for this bill knowing that it goes against the very principles of the Senate, and it's just simply wrong. I'll yield for questions.
Chair recognizes his good friend, the senator from the 19th, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Always for my friend, the Appropriations Chairman.
So, Senator, did someone try to go around you on this bill?
Well, you know, Senator, I would have to say touche.
Thank you, Senator.
You have no more questions.
I'll yield the well.
You know any good attorneys?
Not anymore.
Chair recognizes the Rules Chairman for the benediction.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm for this bill. Let me tell you why. Rural firefighters have to depend on inmate firefighters that always has their corrections officer with them. They do all the hard work for us volunteers who don't have the time to do that. Their training is very important. Please vote for this bill. Thank you, Senator from the 11th.
Senator from the 11th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 46. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 38, the nays are 11, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 46. Watch yours. Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agrees to the House substitute to SB 174.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 174 by Senators GREE to the 51st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding bonds and reconnaissances so as to authorize appointed judges who are fulfilling a vacancy of an elected judge to issue an unsecured judicial release under certain circumstances and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 174, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding bonds and reconnaissances so as to revise bail-restricted offenses, to revise a definition, to provide for and authorize appointed judge who are fulfilling a vacancy of an elected judge to issue certain bonds and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gentlemen, ladies, Senate Bill 174 is a bill we saw earlier in the year. Section 1 stays the same. The House added Section 2, which simply adds bail-restricted offenses that must require a secured bond for release, and similarly clarifies otherwise when a judge can release an offender in completely unsecured bond release. Those offenses are listed on lines 26 through 59. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 51st has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 174. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 36 and nays are 14. The Senate's agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 174. Chair recognizes the senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to Senate sub to House Bill 32.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 32 by Representatives Belton of the 112th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 9 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to grants for educational purposes so as to establish a teacher and for other purposes. The House offers the following amendment to amend Senate substitute to House Bill 32 by replacing line 3 with the following: recruitment and retention program for an income tax credit for teachers and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 25th to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a good bill, helps school teachers in rural areas, and I ask for your favorable consideration.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? Chair sees none. Senator from the 25th has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to House Bill 32. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Ms. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House amendment, the Senate substitute, House Bill 32. Chair recognizes the pro tem for a very important parliamentary inquiry.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that we have a great deal of thanks to give to all the great interns that work down here, and we couldn't do this work without them? Let's hear it for the interns! Woo! Thank you, Mr. President.
Isn't it true that the chair seconds that motion and is grateful for each and every one of you and your families and all the hard work through this difficult period of time? Thank you for the sacrifice to be down here. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned, sine die.
The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned. Sine die!